tonight's big stories. Former Palace spokesman Harry Roque clashes with Senator Risa Hontiveros at today's Senate hearing on POGOs. And the Solicitor General files a quo warranto petition against suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo.
Vice President Sara Duterte calls out PNP Chief Romel Marbil over the removal of 75 cops from her security detail. She calls it a clear case of political harassment.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Well, former Palace spokesman Harry Roque stole the limelight again at today's Senate hearing on POGOs. Well, it was actually a bit of a surprise he turned up to begin with, since just a few days ago he wrote the Senate saying that he will be unable to participate today.
Well, anyway, at today's session, he was clearly agitated and ended up in a heated exchange with Senator Risa Hontiveros. Senator Win Gatchalian had to step in and threaten Roque with a contempt citation if he doesn't get in line.
And though he denied lawyering for a POGO hub, Roque did admit to having a stake in the firm that owns the Benguet property where two POGO-linked foreigners were arrested. Mayan Los Baños brings us the big story tonight.
At the resumption of the Senate hearing on POGOs, former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque stole the show. Appearing angry and indignant at times, he again denied that he was the lawyer of the raided POGO hub Lucky South 99, despite him being tagged as such in Lucky South's organizational chart.
Do you maintain na hindi kayo abogado ng Lucky South 99 or any POGO for that matter?
I maintain, as an officer of the courts, and under oath before the Senate of the Republic of the Philippines, that I have never acted as legal counsel for Lucky South 99 or for any other POGO. Let us be fair, because you have been insinuating I am a lawyer for Lucky South.
Please stop using that offensive verb, insinuating. I am a very plain speaker.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Pwede nyo lang sabihin mali yung fact na sinasite, tinatanggi nyo yung sinabi ng ibang resource person.
The exchanges only got more heated from there.
Sana kinuha po ako ng Lucky Star na abogado. Bakit po? Dahil yung raid sa PORAC, unconstitutional po yan. Nag-raid po sila, kumuha sila ng warrant of arrest galing sa Bulacan judge outside of jurisdiction.
Hindi natin ini-investiga yung raid. We are investigating
yes, ma'am. But I'm just saying, kasi...
So, please just make your answer to this short.
Nalaman ko lang na nandun ang aking pangalan nung nag-hearing po last time dito. Pero bilang abogado and naging professor ng constitutional law, I'm familiar with the rules of the Senate. And the Senate says that in proving facts, the rules of court apply in the suppletory character.
Senator Hontiveros asked Roque why he did not question his name in Lucky South's organizational chart.
I thought we were engaged in the search for the truth.
Oh, definitely we are. Attorney Roque, what I am saying, yes, and Sherwin.
Attorney Roque, please be reminded to respect the chairperson.
I'm very respectful, Madam Chair.
Paano respectful na nagsasalita siya, sinasabayan mo siya?
I apologize, Senator Gatchalian.
One more.
I apologize.
I will cite you in contempt. And if you disrespect the chairperson, we'll be compelled to cite you in contempt.
I understand and I apologize.
But Roque did admit having an interest in the corporation that owns the property in Tuba, Benguet, where two foreign nationals with alleged visa violations were arrested.
Meron po akong interest sa korporasyon na may-ari ng bahay na yan. In fact, in the near future, I am concluding a transaction na kukunin ko yung buong korporasyon na may-ari ng bahay na yan.
Roque also admitted staying in this property in Benguet back in 2019.
Hindi ko po dinideny that, that is a house that I have an interest in. I have lived in the house. Ang sinasabi ko lang po, pinaupahan po yan, and possession is now with the lessee.
Authorities recently raided the unit looking for a Chinese woman with supposed connections to the POGO hub in Bamban. Instead, they found the two foreign nationals. At the Senate hearing, PAGCOR also said it has started coordinating with concerned agencies like DOLE over President Marcos's SONA directive to ban POGOs, with some 40,000 workers expected to be affected. PAGCOR clarifies that this ban includes internet gaming licenses.
PAGCOR is being mandated to wind down the operations, so in reference to even those who have the licenses we had reissued, no? And I'm referring to the IGLs.
Meanwhile, suspended Bamban-Tarlac Mayor Alice Go was again a no-show at today's hearing. The Bureau of Immigration insisted that she's still in the Philippines and there is no record of her exiting the country. And in fact, she was supposedly seen in Bulacan recently.
We were informed that by our assets as of prior to the issuance of the warrant of arrest, there are some sightings in Bulacan. When the team went to the possible locations of these sightings, as of now, lalaman po natin na wala naman pong nahuli o nakita pa po.
The PNP and NBI are now being urged to fast-track the search and arrest of Mayor Alice Go. And if this cannot be done within a month, senators say they may be forced to cut the budget of these law enforcement agencies. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
It's loud and clear from PAGCOR Chief Al Tenco saying that IGLs are included in those that they will slowly phase out and wind down.
Wind down
But
is
what's
the
not
term.
clear to me is what is under the IGLs. Like yung e-bingo, e-game.
Oh no, that's a whole
no,
separate
Iba pa yun.
classification.
Iba yun.
Those
That's
cater to
under-
local, the domestic market and the foreign offshore players. So the domestic market, e-bingo, bingo plus,
But how do you monitor
Bet88.
that? I mean, because it's in the internet, right? It depends on the owner.
That's what the
Technically,
former
they're-
PAGCOR chairwoman, Andrea Domingo, was saying. She said, nung binigay yung utos ni former President Duterte, nagulantang daw sila because they're not sure exactly how to formalize, kumbaga, no, and regulate internet gaming.
I get her point though. Technically, they're all internet gaming companies because they're all on the internet, right? But again, they cater to different markets, and the ones that cater to the domestic market, like the e-bingo companies, they are not included in this. They are actually fall within a different licensing category altogether. Related to that, the foreign nationals employed by POGOs and IGL companies will not receive refunds for their working visas. That's according to the Bureau of Immigration. The deputy spokesperson, Melvin Mabulak, also told our sister program, One Balita Pilipinas, that these POGO workers first have to downgrade their visas and that there's a whole process to it before they can actually exit the country. Listen to this.
Na dahan-dahan na to kasi once they do have the work visa, they need first to downgrade sa temporary visitor and they have to leave the country within 59 days, no? Dapat umalis na sila at we are asking them kasi yan po ang direktiba ng ating Pangulo. Initially, no, we are asking them to downgrade.
Now let's go from the Senate to the lower house. The Committee on Human Rights turned its attention to the Duterte drug war. Former Senator Laila De Lima, who was charged with drug-related cases during the term of former President Duterte, showed up to this hearing. There, she insisted that Duterte is the true mastermind behind the drug war killings.
There is no doubt in my mind that former President Rodrigo Duterte is the mastermind, as he was the instigator and inducer of the drug war killings. These killings constitute a systematic attack on civilians and considered as a crime against humanity under international humanitarian law. For his crimes against humanity, both as Davao City mayor and Philippine president, Duterte should be prosecuted and convicted by the International Criminal Court and spend the remainder of his life in prison.
Former Police Chief Oscar Albayalde was also called in as a resource person. He is among those that former Senator Antonio Trillanes named as supposed suspects in the International Criminal Court's investigation. Albayalde, in turn, questioned the authenticity of the document Trillanes supposedly is holding.
Anong otoridad meron si former Senator Trillanes para maglabas ng isang classified document, no? At bakit kung talagang meron siyang authority sa ICC or bakit pinayagan ng ICC ito para ilabas ang isang kung totoo yung isang classified document na yon.
Nevertheless, Albayalde said he is willing to face the ICC, although he believes the Marcos government will stand firm in its position that the court has no jurisdiction over the Philippines.
matibay po nating sinasandalan yan at matibay nating pinaniniwalaan dyan ay yung pronouncement, ang salita ng ating Pangulong BBM na sinabi po niya na hindi talaga niya pababayaan maghimasok yung ICC sa ating bansa dahil meron po tayong perfectly functioning justice system, no, dito sa ating bansa. No, may isang malaking sampal po yan sa ating sovereignty at masampal din yan sa ating mga justices.
A clear case of political harassment. Vice President Sara Duterte accused PNP Chief Romel Marbil of this in a lengthy statement where she minced no words about the removal of 75 police from her security detail. Julie Baiza has that story.
Vice President Sara Duterte has spoken up about the removal of 75 police personnel from her security detail. In a 4-page letter to PNP Chief Romel Marbil, VP Sara expressed her disapproval of the removal of 75 police officers from her security detail. The Vice President reiterated that she has no issue with the PNP withdrawing personnel from her security team, reiterating that she can work without security. However, the Vice President has a problem with lies being told to the public, especially if they come from the PNP Chief himself. VP Sara first pointed out that the Vice Presidential Protection Division was created to prevent people like Marbil from interfering with their security and that of future Vice Presidents. She claimed that the removal of police personnel occurred after she resigned from DepEd, along with the release of the alleged cocaine video and her statements about the SONA. The Vice President called for the lies to stop, which she deemed a clear case of political harassment. VP Sara also called out Marbil for the release of a video of her at NAIA, which posed a significant threat to her and her family's security. Also seen in the said video was the Vice President's husband and children. She also claimed that recently, PNP operatives tried to find the location of the house Vice President Sara is renting, where her children also lived. But according to VP Sara, the Homeowners Association officials were able to stop the police. The Vice President has since requested Marbil to stop mentioning her in his interviews. She also assured the PNP chief that she will return the 45 police personnel he chose to remain in her security detail. Marbil previously stated that they are adjusting the deployment of the Police Security and Protection Group to prioritize individuals with significant threats to their security. In fact, he said that Vice President Sara has more security personnel than previous Vice Presidents. During a hearing in the House of Representatives today, Marbil was asked to comment on Vice President Sara's open letter, but this was his only response.
Your comment lang, sir, if you want to comment po dun sa open letter ni VP Sara Duterte about sa pagtanggal po ng mga security po sa kanya, sir? Political harassment lang, sir.
Mobile Journey Julie Baiza, we are One News.
Just putting that into context, I believe the reported number of Vice President Sara Duterte's security detail is 433 in a past report, minus 75. So ilan na yun?
300 plus pa rin.
Compared to the former Vice President, Leni Robredo, who had 78.
Yeah. I think
that's basing off the COA report. You're talking about the COA report from 2023?
However,
2022.
Yeah, they do work in shifts, right? And I'm not sure because she also flies a lot between two places how the logistics of that works out. Pang-kontra lang, you know. Iwas mali siya lang.
Well, speaking of numbers, and the former DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte, a dire lack of classrooms and other all-too-familiar issues greeted students earlier as classes officially opened nationwide. And more than 800 schools affected by Super Typhoon Karina were forced to delay their school opening. Francis Orsho with the big story.
For Education Secretary Sani Angara, it was an orderly first day for public schools today. That's even though more than 800 schools are still reeling from last week's massive flooding, triggered by the combined effects of Typhoon Karina and the southwest monsoon or Habagat. These schools had to postpone their scheduled class opening today. Still, Angara says that's only about 2% of the total number of basic education schools nationwide. The Education Department has also promised 2 to 3 billion pesos in funding to repair the damaged classrooms. According to DepEd, there are about 20.5 million students who enrolled in public schools and the alternative learning system for academic year 2024-2025. Secretary Angara expects the number to climb to as much as 27 million since enrollment is extended until September. On his second week as DepEd chief, Angara made the rounds earlier today. And from what he saw, he said the lack of classrooms remains a big problem. In Carmona National High School, for example, at least 27 classrooms are still needed to accommodate over 5,000 students. As a temporary fix, they resort to shifting class schedules.
Well, siguro a mix of faster construction and also yung blended, pagandahin yung blended learning. Kasi sa ngayon, ang internet connectivity ng mga schools, usually, at best 60 to 70% lang yan eh. So may 30 to 40% tayo na hindi pa rin konektado. So yun ang dapat pag-igihan natin.
For now, schools have to make do with what they have until the new secretary's plans for more classrooms and better structures for the public school system come to pass. The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, also called on Angara to take care of the learners' well-being and socio-emotional needs amidst climate-related challenges. Mobile journalist Francis Orsho, We Are One News.
On to pressing environmental concerns, divers hired to help salvage the sunken tanker, the MT Terra Nova, have been able to seal 14 of the 24 pressure tank valves, 4 of which have developed leaks. With the sealing done, the siphoning of the estimated 1.4 million liters of industrial oil aboard the tanker may begin tomorrow. The Philippine Coast Guard says they have also observed a reduction in the area of the oil spill. From the initial 14 kilometers, it has now shrunk to 6 kms. According to the PCG, the cleanup operation is expected to take only 2 weeks. Currently, provinces are preparing to deploy their own indigenous oil spill booms to prevent the spilled oil from reaching the shores.
Isang malaking development po ito sa atin na particularly sa ating responders in the area. Yun po yung sinasabi din ng ating mga technical expert na light lang po yung origin at yung na-mention niya po kanina. As per current update po natin na pwede pong naturally ma-evaporate dito.
Aside from the MT Terra Nova, another tanker, the MTKR Jason Bradley, also sank in the waters off Bataan last Saturday. The tanker is reportedly carrying some 5,000 liters of diesel. The good news, according to the PCG, is that the discovered leaks have already been sealed off.
Empty na yung kanyang cargo with diesel. So yun na lang yung aming pinagtutuunan ng pansin. The mere fact na diesel din siya, madali din siya ma-dissipate or mag-evaporate.
We're going to pause for a quick one right now, but right after that, the Office of the Solicitor General formally filed a petition to oust Alice Guo from her elected post. We'll be speaking with Soljan Menardo Guevara about this when the big story returns. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Circling back to our top story, the Solicitor General has challenged suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo's right to hold public office. That is contained in the quo warranto petition filed by the Office of the Solgen at the Manila Regional Trial Court, Branch 34, which also referred to Guo as Guo Huaping. That is what Senator Win Gatchalian earlier revealed as Guo's real name, basing on documents provided by the Bureau of Immigration and the Board of Investments. The Solgen believes this too, citing that Guo is indeed a Chinese national and therefore not eligible to hold any public position. Aside from the quo warranto petition, the Office of the Soljan is likewise pushing for the cancellation of Guo's birth certificate, and this could strip the embattled mayor of her Filipino citizenship. For more on this, let me bring in the Solicitor General himself, Menardo Guevara. Welcome to the big story once again. Thanks for coming all the way here, Soljan.
Good evening to the three of you, and good evening to your televiewers.
Really busy day for you.
Quite a bit.
Right. Thank you for making time. So you filed a 46-page quo warranto petition against Bamban Mayor, if I could still call her that, Alice Guo. Talk us through it. What is the legal basis?
We have two main grounds in this petition for quo warranto. One is based on her ineligibility. We have evidence to show that she is not a Filipino citizen. She is in fact a Chinese national. And for that reason, she is not permitted under our existing laws to run for a public office. So that's the first ground, ineligibility. The other major ground is that she has committed certain acts which, by provision of the law, would constitute a forfeiture of her office, which will lead to her removal. So those are the two prongs of the quo warranto petition that we filed with the Regional Trial Court in Manila this morning.
Certain acts, you mean the being untruthful in the documents?
To be more specific, serious dishonesty, which is one of the grounds specified in the local government code as a ground for removal from office, dismissal.
Okay, let's do the first prong, which is ineligibility. We have, of course, we're so familiar with the story of Alice Guo and Guo Huaping, right, Soljan? However, she is still not admitted that she is Guo Huaping. She maintains that she is Alice Guo. She maintains na Filipino siya. And as her lawyers pointed out, she does deserve due process. So how do we resolve that basic identity issue? Shouldn't that be resolved first before we file a quo warranto case? Can you explain the legalities behind that, please?
Well, of course, she will be given her day in court. Once the court issues the summons for her to respond or to answer the petition, then she'll be given all the opportunity to prove that she is in fact a Filipino citizen and therefore eligible to run for public office. But we have relied on public documents which have been gathered, and many of them were presented during the Senate committee investigation. And the most telling of all of this evidence presented before the Senate committee is the NBI fingerprint report, which shows that this person who calls herself Alice Leal Guo, and this person named Guo Huaping are one and the same person based on their fingerprints on record.
Soljan, at the center of this also is the question, how was she able to get the documents? And the SIRV is one, but her citizenship, her birth certificate, and all that. You have 11 witnesses from government. Can you give us a better idea of how this all happened?
Well, the main ammunition that Mayor Alice Guo, Leal Guo has is her birth certificate, which she obtained by the procedure of late registration. And that's one reason why the first petition that the OSG filed was a petition for the cancellation of that birth certificate on the ground that it did not comply with the requirements of the law for a valid delayed registration. And but apart from that, the government has independent evidence clearly pointing to her own admissions and her own documents, like application for this certificate of candidacy with a COMELEC, application for a Philippine passport, and so many other public documents. where we believe that certain misrepresentations were made by her.
Do you have anybody from the Office of the Local Civil Registry? Because I believe they're the first office that one has to get in touch with to be able to get that document. And, you know, taking a look at the bigger picture here, the problem is it's not just Mayor Alice Go. I mean, she is a big symptom of a bigger problem of how aliens are able to
penetrate the system.
Yes.
Correct.
These records are public records, and anyone can have access to these public documents. And you're correct. This is only one of thousands of similar cases across the country. For example, in this municipality in Davao del Sur, the municipality of Santa Cruz. Yes, there were about 1,500, more or less, cases of delayed registration of birth. And most of these were foreigners. And one thing that is curious about this delayed registration is the information pertaining to the medical intervention, whether it was by a midwife, whether it was by a nurse, by a doctor. In 90% of these cases, it was made to appear na hilot ang nagpa-anak doon sa applicant.
So parang nanganak lang sa bahay.
Yes.
Which is exactly what Mayor Alice Go was saying or telling the Senate.
Right. 90% of all of these cases were made to appear na hilot lamang ang nagpaanak sa kanila. And that would, you know, it would be very hard to track down kung sino itong mga hilot na ito. Unlike a nurse, unlike a doctor, na merong definitely medical records. Pero yung hilot, walang record yan.
Are you also
Kaya
working
maraming
on
ganun.
dun sa mga siblings niya? Because the warrant of arrest issued by the Senate was for 7 people. Not all of them are family members or suspected family members, pero nandun yung mga alleged siblings niya. Are you also working on that? Or kay Mayor Alice Go?
Not at this time. We're focusing on Mayor Alice Go because she's an elected public official. Kaya may public interest involved.
Last we spoke to her legal team, Attorney Stephen David. He says they are not getting due process because this has become a trial by publicity. He says, as of the last time we spoke to him, he says they hadn't received the reports, for instance, the NBI fingerprint proof that you're talking about. They haven't also been given the class records that Senator Gatchalian presented at the Senate. Remember, when to show that she had gone to Grace Christian High School, Dao. He claims that they have not gotten any copies of those. That's why at that point in time, he couldn't comment. But more importantly, he feels that they are not getting due process because these documents are being released very publicly and not through the legal channels. So,
well, it's a Senate inquiry in aid of legislation. So if they want their side to be heard, then I think the simplest way to do it is to appear before the hearings of the Senate.
That's exactly my next question to you, Soljan. I don't think she has any plans, or we don't know if she has any plans to ever turn up at the next Senate inquiries, but for your co-Waranto case, is she compelled to show up at the court? Does she have to show up, or are her lawyers or her representation enough?
Of course, summons will have to be served upon her. If she could be found. If she could not be found, then we'll probably do so by publication. If, despite publication of the summons, she fails to appear, then the court will proceed accordingly, even without her. But so it's up to her. It's her call if she wants her side to be heard. That's her call.
But also coming back to what their legal team is saying, according to Attorney David, the burden of proof is very high in terms of proving that she was indeed lying about her identity. He says only the Supreme Court can decide whether those documents are indeed truthful or not. The pieces of evidence that the Senate has presented.
Not quite true, because the Supreme Court is not a trier of facts. Factual issues will be determined by the trial court. So if they don't appear there, it's too bad for them. The Supreme Court can only entertain questions of law. All factual issues will have to be resolved in the courts below.
In a quo warranto petition, which literally means by what authority, the thing that we're questioning here is the right to exercise or hold public office. And with that said, what happens now to the decisions, former decisions of Mayor Alice Go? Will those be overturned? Will those be still recognized? Yung mga,
you mean on the assumption that she would be declared ineligible?
On the assumption.
Well, it really depends on what decisions we're talking about. We have this principle in law known as the principle of operative fact. So, you know, this is really applicable to constitutional issues. Now, before a law or an executive order is declared void, and everything was done in good faith, then probably the effects of those decisions will be respected.
Okay, so let's make it a very simple example. Example is just ordinances on bawal mag-obstruct ng sidewalk, mga ganyan. Those will probably hold. What about her permits?
Permit, yon.
Her permits for the Pogo Hub behind the Municipal Hall.
Well, if that could really be shown to be an illegal act in the first place, it doesn't have anything to do with her being the mayor or not. The act itself is unlawful.
Yeah, I mean, okay, put Pogos aside. I mean, they've already been declared illegal, and there's a blanket ban on them now. But what about mayor's permit on legitimate businesses in Bamban, Tarlac? What will happen to those contracts, commercial contracts that she signed?
That's what I'm saying.
They will hold up.
Yes, because they were probably, you know, as far as the other parties are concerned, they enter into those contracts in good faith, believing that the mayor had the proper authority. So maybe for them, the court will be more lenient and consider the contract still in effect or the permit still in effect. But I am really going much beyond.
Yeah.
We're speculating already on what may happen.
Right. But this is all on the assumption that she will be declared ineligible. That's right.
Okay, let's get out of the speculative realm, Solgen. Your office also filed another petition, this time before a Tarlac court. This is to cancel the birth certificate of Alice Guo. Of course, I can imagine her lawyers are going to say that she will be stateless once you remove her birth certificate or declare it as invalid.
Sinabi niya na yun, actually, no?
Yun nga eh.
Saan siya pupunta?
That's what she said, right? I'm Filipino. If you take away my citizenship, what's going to happen to me? And how would that all work?
You know, the only purpose of that petition for cancellation is to remove that, to expunge that birth certificate from the files. Because it contains a lot of falsehood and incomplete and not supported by the appropriate documents. So the only effect will be for that document to cease to exist officially. But her citizenship is determined elsewhere in the quo warranto. They are two different things.
But also complementary.
Complementary, exactly.
So you're going to need the cancellation before a decision is reached in the quo warranto petition?
No.
No.
It's not dependent on the petition for cancellation. They're two totally independent things, but they complement each other.
How long will the proceedings go? I mean, do you expect this to go?
The petition for cancellation of the birth certificate is a summary process, so we expect that to be completed probably within the year. It's set for hearing on September 18, and there's really not much to do there. So I guess that petition can be decided by the court within the year.
Kasi pagbobotohan na lang.
Okay.
Especially so if they don't participate.
One question on Pogo, Solgen. We all heard the President's declaration in the SONA. We have heard the categorical explanation by PAGCOR Chief Altenco earlier this morning that they will be winding down. My question is, will these Pogos with actual legit licenses, can they sue the government for like a pre-termination of contract or any such thing?
Nothing prevents them from doing so. But, you know, the President is exercising in this particular incident, police power, delegated police power for the welfare of the country, for the benefit of the public at large. So there will be a conflict between certain private individual interests as against the interests of the state, interests of the general public. So that is the usual conflict in cases that reach the Supreme Court when the police power issue is at stake.
I actually read that earlier. You said that an EO, executive order from the president, was enough to execute this ban on pogos, right?
Actually, some people say that not even an executive order is necessary because that statement from the president during the SONA would have been enough. To a certain extent, that is correct because a verbal order from the president has the same legal effect as if that order was in writing. But, you know, many interests will be affected here. Certain assets will have to be probably forfeited. Many people will be displaced and stuff like that. Corporations dissolved.
That's why. Yes.
So it was my suggestion that the president, the office of the president, may be better off if it issues an appropriate legal order, maybe in the form of an executive order, so that the parameters for the transition, for the phase out, will be clear.
Meaning everything is written down para walang turuan after the fact, and and the steps will be there. Kumbaga parang instructions.
Yes, instructions to all government agencies involved in this matter. So hindi yung kanya-kanyang diskarte yung mga government agencies, Bureau of Immigration doing this, Department of Trade doing this. So, mas maganda sana kung merong executive issuance.
Okay, Soljan, sorry, we are running out of time, but there is another big topic that we wanted to talk to you about, which is the International Criminal Court, talking about legal preparations. What preparations have you done in that regard, and what are you hearing?
There's nothing to prepare for.
Why is that, Soljan?
As far as the government is concerned, we have completely detached ourselves from the ICC because we withdrew from it as a state. And that withdrawal took effect way back in 2019. So we have terminated all relations with the ICC.
That's clear that that is the stance of the government. But Soljan, former Senator Antonio Trillanes also released an ICC document yet to be verified, questioned by the former PNP chief Oscar Albayalde. The document identifying 5 persons as suspects in this case. First of all, can you verify with us, does that document exist? And has the ICC coordinated or communicated with the Philippine government?
You know, since Mr. Trillanes has brought up this matter, this supposedly confidential matter, I am compelled to say something about it so that it will be seen by the people in its proper context. Yes, there is a communication. There is a request from the ICC prosecutor requesting assistance from the Philippine government to facilitate the interview of 5 individuals. And the reason for this is this. The ICC prosecutor cannot apply for a warrant of arrest unless he has full information about the facts that happened in the Philippine drug war. So far, the ICC prosecutor has seen much on the side of the complainants, but nothing much on the side of those being accused. So it is the duty of the prosecutor under Article 54 of the Rome Statute to investigate all facts, whether incriminating or exonerating, so that he presents a balanced picture to the pretrial chamber who will determine whether it will issue a warrant of arrest or not.
What has the ICC communicated?
It has communicated, it's the ICC prosecutor who communicated that request to the Philippine government for assistance.
For the review.
In other words,
for the interview.
For the government to facilitate the interview of these people, whether at The Hague or in the Philippines, or if those 2 options are not possible, for the Philippine government itself to conduct the interview on behalf of the ICC prosecutor.
And would you assist what is this? What did you respond?
Well,
how did you respond?
I am not sure about the final reply to the ICC prosecutor, but knowing fully well that the Philippine government, through the president, has repeatedly stated that we have no legal duty to cooperate or to lend assistance, then probably the answer is negative. But that does not mean that the ICC prosecutor cannot continue his investigation. He can do so. He can interview these 5 people directly.
Correct.
All that we are saying is the government will not be involved.
You're not going to get in the way.
No, we will not get in the way. The ICC prosecutor can do that voluntarily, by himself, directly talking to these 5
Sojourn,
people.
when was this? I'm just trying to work out the timeline.
Early part of July.
Just
Early
this month?
July.
Yes.
So you got the communication just in July?
Yes, and
And
I'm saying all of this so that we have a proper context for what Mr. Trillanes is saying.
As far as you know, has the Philippine government issued a final response?
I'm not sure about that. I tried to check before I went here, but I didn't get a reply. There's no signal.
Is it
Would it
not
be
your
DOJ?
office? Is it
Or
not
would
your
it be the
office?
Solgen?
Yeah.
Would
It's
it
a
be-
bit confusing. Is it not your office that has to respond to the ICC?
It's the Department of Foreign Affairs. So the Department of Foreign Affairs is the official channel. It related to us, and it also related to Malacanang, to the office of
Do
the
you need
president.
consensus for the answer, or the answer just has to come from, you're the government's lawyer?
We recommended the final say will be with the office of the president.
And routed through the DFA, perhaps?
Yes,
Okay.
the channel will be the DFA.
And again, lastly, you don't think there's, under the Marcos administration, there's a chance for the Philippines to return to the ICC fold?
Not in the immediate future, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Pretty dour note to end with, but it is what it is. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
My
Once
pleasure.
again, Solicitor General Minardo Guevara.
That's it for the big story tonight.
Thanks for staying with us. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.